So learning to play slide guitar is hard. Most people struggle with it when they're first starting out. But there is one mistake that I see more beginners make than any other that makes their lives so much more difficult than it needs to be. And that is using the wrong slide. Using a slide that doesn't fit properly or is uncomfortable in some way or just isn't right for the style of slide you want to play can completely hinder your learning. It can totally limit what you can do with the slide and it can just suck the joy out of playing slide. So in today's video, we're gonna go over how to choose the perfect guitar slide for you. But before we get started, I have a huge announcement that I'm so excited to share with you guys. So my very first guitar course, which is called the Slide Guitar Course Standard Tuning Edition, is out now. The course has over 6 hours worth of video content teaching you everything you need to know to be a versatile slide player in standard tuning on your regular guitar without having to use any open tunings or set up a guitar just for slide or anything. So you can incorporate the slide into your everyday normal playing in a wide variety of musical situations. The course also includes PDF downloads that have tabs, fretboard diagrams, and other materials to supplement the video content. The course starts with the most basic fundamentals of playing slide guitar, and from there it gradually introduces more and more advanced concepts all the way up until we start dabbling in a little bit of fretting behind the slide like this. So that means this course is designed for everyone from beginners who have no experience playing slide all the way up to more advanced players who want to fill in gaps in their knowledge. And to celebrate launching this course, for this week only, I am offering it at 50% off. It's never going to be discounted that much again, so go ahead and jump on it now while you can get it at such a cheap price. The link to check out the Slide Guitar Course Standard Tuning Edition is down below in the description of this video. Thank you so much in advance to anyone who decides to buy the course. I worked really hard on it, put a ton of time into it, and I genuinely hope it is a huge help for all of you guys in your slide guitar journeys. So how do you choose the right slide for you? Because as you probably have seen, there are tons of options out there for slides. This is just a small fraction of the amount of slides I have, by the way. Because there are so many different types of slides out there, there are several factors that you have to consider when choosing the right one for you. But the number one most important factor above all others, regardless of brand or material or anything else, is the fit of your slide. The fit of your slide can completely make or break your technique and just how you sound and how much you enjoy playing slide. So when I say fit, I mean a couple different things. First and foremost, you need to make sure the inner diameter of the slide is the right size for your finger, regardless of which finger you choose to put the slide on. And that's going to be the distance of one side of the inner wall to the other side. So basically how snug it fits on your finger. You basically want to have a slide that isn't too big and loose and cumbersome, but also isn't too small and tight so it's constricting your finger. What I recommend is getting a slide that is either just slightly larger than the diameter of whichever finger you're putting the slide on, maybe 1 or 2 millimeters larger than your finger at the most, which if you look at my slide, which shameless plug, this is my signature slide made by The Rock Slide. That's the name of the brand, The Rock Slide. If you want to find out more details about my signature slide, then link is in the description to my YouTube video where I talk all about it, and a link to purchase it is down there as well. But anyway, if you look at the way my slide fits, if I kind of push it against my finger like this, then it has just a little bit of wiggle room in there. So I would say anywhere from having that slight amount of wiggle room to being just slightly snug, again, not too tight, but you want it to just comfortably hug your finger without there being a bunch of excess room in there. That's going to give you the best combination of comfortability while also giving you the most control over the slide. The next parameter of the slide's fit that you want to look at is the length. So that is a little bit more of a personal preference thing, and it kind of depends on your style, what types of things you want to play, and what tunings you're playing in possibly. But a general rule of thumb is you want it to be roughly the length of the fretboard. So you don't want to have a bunch of excess slide hanging off either end of the fretboard because it's not doing anything for you, and again, it's just making the slide more cumbersome and harder to control. But particularly if you're playing in open tunings, you want to have that full coverage of the fretboard of all 6 strings so you can play full 6-string chords with it. If you're in standard tuning, that's not quite as crucial. For example, my slide doesn't quite actually fully cover all 6 strings because you typically aren't playing all 6 strings all at once in standard tuning because it ends up sounding kind of like this. which you're never really going to play that in standard tuning. So you can get away with a little bit of a shorter slide if you're in standard specifically. I personally don't recommend those really small knuckle slides or like the ring slides, just because to me they're kind of gimmicky and again, harder to control. And just for normal everyday slide playing, it's not what you want. So roughly the length of the fretboard is what you want to shoot for. So those two factors right there encompassing the fit of your slide are the most important things to look out for when it comes to choosing the right slide for you. The next most important factor to consider is the weight of your slide. Now, this is ultimately going to be a personal preference thing, but in general, the lighter the slide, the more maneuverable it's going to be. So the more quickly you can move it up and down the neck. Whereas the heavier it is, the slower and more cumbersome it's going to feel, but it's going to have more sustain than a lighter weight slide. So if you want to play, for example, really fast Derek Trucks type stuff like this, then I would recommend getting a slide that's on the lighter side. You don't want to go too light though, because a slide that is really, really thin and light, for example, those ultra thin Dunlop glass slides, those can be a little bit thin sounding and lack sustain. So I don't recommend going too light, but something that's on the lighter side is generally going to be easier to do faster lines like that. But if you're more interested in playing long, slow, sustaining type lines, more like this, then you might want to go with a heavier slide. And the weight of the slide is generally going to be determined by the thickness of the slide, so the thickness of the wall of the slide here. So when it comes to weight, you're honestly just going to have to try out some different slides and see what you like the feel of. Personally, I like slides that are a little bit on the lighter side. Again, not too light, but kind of a medium lightweight type of feel. So I get the maneuverability, but I also still have a decent amount of sustain as well. Another factor to consider is whether your slide is tapered, which means one end of the slide starts out thin and then it gradually gets thicker as you get to the other side. So the slide essentially hugs your finger and kind of fits a little bit more securely on the tip of your finger. This is completely personal preference. You just have to try some out and see what you like. The Rock Slide makes some of the best taper slides out there. Their standard models have a pretty heavy taper to them, so they start out pretty thin and then get nice and thick on the end. My signature slide, though, is a little bit more of a subtle taper, so it starts out thinner and gets a little bit thicker, but it's nothing too drastic. And again, you're just gonna have to try some stuff out to find what works best for you. Now, lastly, the material of the slide. So there is a reason why I put this last, because I personally think it's the least important factor when it comes to the slide you choose. When it comes to the most commonly used slide materials, which are glass, metal, such as brass or steel, and ceramic, if you ask me, as long as the surfaces of them are all polished smooth, then they're all going to sound very, very similar. The conventional wisdom is that glass is warmer, metal is brighter, and ceramic is somewhere in between. But if you ask me, even if you're playing acoustic guitar, they are almost indistinguishable. But here's a quick demonstration on electric to show you what I mean. I don't know about you, but those all sounded pretty darn close to me. And like I said, even if I do that same test on an acoustic guitar, it still ends up with the same result. So for me personally, the material and the tone isn't really a factor when it comes to choosing a slide. Now, if you feel like you hear a difference when you try it out for yourself and any one of those materials just inspires you more than the other ones, then I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, and by all means, use whichever material you want. It's just that I don't think it makes a big difference in the sound of a slide. Personally, I go with brass because for its weight, you can get a little bit of a smaller, more form-fitting slide. In order to get a glass or ceramic slide that weighs about the same as this one, it would have to be much bigger and thicker and more cumbersome. And I just like slides to be more slim and form-fitting for their weight. And they don't break. So honestly, just go with whichever one you like the look and feel of the most. So this has been a quick crash course on how to choose the right slide for you. When it comes down to it, you're just going to have to try a bunch of slides. For me, it took years and years of trying just all the slides I could possibly find until I figured out what I liked in a slide. And honestly, I didn't find the perfect slide for me until we designed my signature slide. So that just goes to show you really just have to experiment and just try stuff out for yourself. There is no one right or wrong answer. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to personal preference. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you could please like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell notification icon to get notified whenever I post new videos. That will help out my channel a lot. Also, be sure to check out the slide guitar course, Standard Tuning Edition, down below in the link in the description. One more time, the course is 50% off for this week alone, so be sure to take advantage of that while you can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.